This weak virgin boy finds himself transported to a completely different world where he is forced to battle monsters and goblins just to survive each day. Haruka is always alone, just as he was back in his real world, where he was a total lonely loser and virgin with no riz and a future as dark as my black hole. Nobody ever noticed him because he never fit in with any of the school cliques, which were divided into groups like Andrew Tate followers, the school hoes, disgusting delinquents, smelly and sweaty nerds, the Sigmas, and the good girls with level 100 G-Yat. Resting his head on the desk, Haruka knows there's no place for someone like him in this world, when suddenly his classmates start acting like fools as they watch a glowing golden circle appear in the classroom. Being a virgin weeb like many of them, Haruka instantly recognizes this as an Isekai summoning, just like in the mangas he's read, but he's too lazy to deal with it. He tries to walk away, only to find the door sealed tightly with Flex Seal. Even with a lot of damage, it won't budge. The magic circle expands, engulfing the classroom as students begin getting sucked in. Having watched too many Tom Cruise movies, Haruka tries to escape through the air ducts, but his luck runs out as the circle catches him and drags him into a white, endless void. He glances around, wondering where on earth his entire class is, and waits for an ugly ass king with a level 10,000 G-Yat daughter to greet him. Nothing happens. Soon he notices an old-ass man running toward him, attempting to communicate in sign language for some reason. Somehow, Haruka manages to understand that all his classmates were summoned earlier, transported to a different world after selecting a special ability. The old man informs him that he also needs to pick a skill, but out of the 50 options, 43 have already been taken, leaving no overpowered skills left. Realizing he'll have to settle for a lame-ass skill to survive in this new world, his hopes are dashed further when he sees that even your mom has better abilities than the remaining ones. Frustrated, he shakes the old man like a maraca, demanding he get better skills or learn to count properly, and to stop summoning people if he doesn't have enough abilities. The old man finally snaps, shoving him aside and saying that someone as unlucky as him wouldn't survive even with the best skills. In frustration, he gives Haruka all the leftover abilities and pushes him into the new world. When Haruka turns around, he's stunned to find himself in the middle of a vast forest. Scared and alone, he spots a pouch on the ground and picks it up, discovering it has unlimited carrying capacity. It's a decent item, but unfortunately, everything inside is as basic as my girlfriend. He quickly performs a drip check and tries to review his stats, but out of nowhere, 2 dice appear on the screen. He rolls them and both land on M. He has no clue what it stands for, but the stats prompt him to assign everything to a single skill. Unsure if M means minus or something else, he plays it safe and bets everything on the luck stat. To his shock, M actually stands for maximum, and his luck stat is now maxed out. He also learns that due to his extreme loneliness and being a virgin, God has granted him a special pity ability that lets him tame wild creatures. He looks around to see if any of his classmates are nearby, but no one's around, so he decides to move forward and build his own house inspired by the dudes on YouTube who build homes out of dirt. As he walks through the forest, he begins to feel uneasy, worried that a giant monster might jump out at him, or maybe it's your mom. To ease his fears, he pulls out another skill item called contact lenses. To his amazement, as soon as he puts them on, he gains the power to see the stats of different things, an incredibly useful and powerful ability. He realizes that these skills are far more valuable than their names suggest and continues on, happily scanning his surroundings for herbs that boost health, anivena mushrooms, and more. With his bottomless bag, he's able to gather as much as he wants to sell as medicine for a big profit. After rehydrating like a true Sigma, he presses on through the forest, eventually coming across the entrance to a cave. He prays to God, hoping there are no creatures inside, and then enters to search for anything useful. The cave quickly becomes pitch black, so he pulls out his lantern and magic tent, which he can easily set up to live peacefully. By the time night falls, Haruka feels more comfortable than Bear Grylls as he gathers sticks and, using his temperature magic, ignites a fire that will also keep the beasts away. He checks his stats again, noticing that several of his skills have leveled up, but he's too exhausted to review them, so he drifts off to sleep. The next morning, he wakes with a start and scans the area to ensure he's still safe, realizing his monster-repelling methods work flawlessly. Feeling hungry, he lights another fire, pulls out a pan, and sautés some mushrooms and beef jerky. The meal turns out surprisingly tasty, and he wonders if he could settle here as a buff farmer, but he remembers he has no protein powder. So he heads out of the cave again, discovering a patch of herbs that could help him build muscle. While gathering the herbs, he hears a ruckus behind him and spots a group of foolish goblins scrounging around. Panic sets in and he hides in some bushes as the stupid-ass goblins start singing Skibidi Toilet. That's where Haruka draws the line, grabbing his staff before the nonsense gets to him. He wonders if his stick will be enough to handle the 2 goblins. Just to be cautious, he puts on some gear and then rushes toward them, hitting one of the goblins on its big-ass head. This triggers something inside him, and he starts pounding the poor creature until it's knocked out cold on the ground. The other goblin gets frightened but still charges at Haruka. Luckily for Haruka, the goblin's moves are predictable, so he dodges the attacks easily before smacking it on the head and finishing it off with a small magic blast. Afterward, he washes his face as the sun sets and decides to head home, feeling like he's done enough for the day. Once back at his cave, he roasts some mushrooms like a total hobo and checks his stats, only to see that several abilities have leveled up. This is great news, but he can't help wondering what the goblins would do to him if they found him alone in the empty cave. He quickly shakes off the scary thoughts and warms up with some exercise before heading to bed. The next morning, he wakes up to mushrooms for breakfast again, which is already getting tiresome. He wonders if he can find some meat, but quickly remembers how the vegans in his class would roast him alive if he said that out loud. He gets up, boosts his stats with some magic, and heads out for the day with his trusty wooden staff in hand. Soon, he finds something on the ground only to discover it's yet another worthless mushroom. Frustrated, he tosses it to the ground and resumes searching for meat as if it grows on trees like a total virgin. Before long, he regains his composure and realizes he should focus on honing his magic abilities. He powers up his stats once more and then starts sprinting through the forest. To his amazement, his speed has multiplied several times, making his body feel incredibly light and agile. Even his attacks appear faster and stronger, so he decides to test this out on a nearby group of goblins. Without hesitation, he leaps into battle, striking the first goblin with his wooden weapon before knocking the second one on the head. This, however, angers the goblins, especially the muscular one, who picks up a club. Haruka, not wanting to risk it, hides in the bushes and slips away unnoticed. He decides he's had enough for the day and heads back to his cave, reflecting on the day's events before starting some DIY projects like putting together an IKEA table. After a few attempts by the next morning, he's gotten pretty skilled and successfully assembles a stool and a coffee table on his own. With his newfound craftsmanship, he tightens security, building a wooden gate at the cave entrance to ensure no one can enter without permission. That night, he heads out to hunt a small bunny, unable to go much longer without meat. Fortune favors him as he spots a rabbit darting through the forest and manages to catch it like a wildcat. Grinning like a predator at the thought of the meal, he suddenly senses the presence of others nearby and shifts into alert mode. He looks around and to his surprise and disappointment, sees the group of delinquents walking toward him. This really frightens him because he doesn't want to get mixed up with them, so he hides behind some bushes and quietly walks away. But then his instincts kick in again. He quickly uses his special vision, which allows him to see everything around him, and to his surprise, he notices the thoughts heading his way from one side, while the typical Andrew Tate fans and the smelly nerds approach from the other. He decides he wants nothing to do with any of them, when he suddenly spots the vegan girls led by the class president. He lets the bunny go and considers whether he should meet the class president since she's always been kind to him, and he's known her since first grade. But he stops himself with pure determination, thinking about how great it feels to be in control of his own life, and decides that he will conquer the world on his own terms. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe and check out this video about the weakest E-rank hunter obtains cheat level system and gains godlike powers.